from RTO. Welcome to the Sophomore Drome. 2 albums go in, but only one will come out. Which one will it be this week? And this week, this is a viewer's request. And I do believe it was from Mick. And he said, what about Pink Floyd against Hawkwind? And I thought, oh, that'll be a good one. So, as usual, the band that come release first goes first. And in this case, it's Pink Floyd. Now, their sophomore album is, of course, A Saucer Full of Secrets, which was released on the 22nd of June 1968. And during this recording, the mental health of singer and guitarist Syd Barrett had declined, so they brought in Dave Gilmour. And Barrett soon left the band before the completion. So playing on here is Roger Waters on bass guitar, all tracks and some percussion. Richard Wright, anything that tin whistles, xylophones, mellotrons, vibraphones and pianos and Hammond organ. Dave Gilmour plays guitars on track 2 and 7. He plays a kazoo on track 4 and does vocals as well. Of course, on the drums and percussion, and Mr. Nick Mason. Now, Syd Barrett does some vocals on tracks 2 and 7, and slide guitar on 2, and acoustic guitar as well, and a bit of electrical guitar. So there is a little bit of Syd in this album. So the first track on A Saucer Full of Secrets is Let There Be Light. Well, I love this track. It's got some eerie keyboards from Richard. The bass line from Roger is fantastic. Some great guitar work from Dave on this. It's a pretty good track to open up. I do like that. Remember a Day is next. It's not one of my favourites on here, but it has got some Syd's contributions on it, which is nice, and there's a little bit of singing from Syd on this as well. And you sort of look at it as a bit of a sentimental track, even though it's not one of my favourites. Okay, then we have the eeriest track, I think, that Pink Floyd ever did, and it Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. That wonderful vocal from Roger, that sort of eerie sort of bass line as well, and then delicate bits on the cymbals from Nick. Very, very good. Up next is Corporal Clegg, the last track on side 1. I really like this. There's some magical guitar riffs on this and a solo. It's a very short track for them, but it's a really good track. I do like that. So side 2 starts off with the title track, A Saucerful of Secrets. This is my favourite track on here. I love that. I like the cholesterol voices on it. I love the George organ from Richard. And then you've got that really weird piece where it seems like everyone's just hitting notes, and it just shows what the experimentation they were doing. I think it's a wonderful track. Then we have Seesaw. Now, it's probably the weakest track on here in my books. I'm not been a big fan of Seesaw. And then the last track is Jug Band Blues, typical sort of Syd Barrett song. And it was just nice to hear Syd Barrett's vocals on this one more time. It's just a great track. I really like that one. It's very short, but very good at that. This is a good album. Now, considering the turmoil that Pink Floyd were going through when they were recording this with Syd, it may have been very distracting, but they put out a really good album. And it set them up. This is the one that really set them on the path to what was to come. Some excellent tracks on here. A couple of mediocre, but on the whole, it's a great listen, this album. That's what I think of it. There's not been much written about this. It just, I'm just trying to think. It just says someone wrote about Rolling Stone found it unfavourable, writing that the album was not as interesting as the first and rather mediocre, highlighting the reduced contributions from Sid. Now, poor old Sid was in a turmoil, so what do we expect? But in recent years, the Rolling Stone album guide updated its rating. So, I think so. Let's have a look at the ratings. So, All Music gave it a 3.5. The Daily Telegraph gave it a 3. The Great Rock Discography gave it an 8 out of 10. Encyclopedia of Popular Music gave it a 3 out of 5. Music Hound gave it a 2 out of 5. Paste gave it an 8.3 out of 10. The Rolling Stone Album Guide gave it a 3. Sputnik Music gave it a 4.5. Tom Hull gave it an A-. The Encyclopedia of Popular Music gave it a 3 out of 5. It got to number 9 in the UK chart, so a top 10 hit. And it went gold in the UK and gold in Italy. Two big proggy psychedelic countries who love their music. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of this one. Song quality. It's a mixture here. There's some really good stuff. There's a couple of mediocre tracks on here. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. Production. As ever, excellent production. It was groundbreaking stuff. And I can only give that a 5 out of 5. Reception. It was a mixed bag from the critics, but the fans were the more important. You know, number 9 in the charts and gold here in the UK. That's over 100,000 thing, and that was actually on the 1994 release. So it's very popular. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Cover design, very psychedelic and groovy. It doesn't say A Source Full of Secrets on it though. It's just got Pink Floyd running across the top. And there is that very, very tiny picture of them. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. So, for A Source Full of Secrets by Pink Floyd gives us a grand total of 16 out of 20. So let's move on to the next contender. This is a bit of space rock from Hawkwind, Dave Brock and the Boys, and their second album, In Search of Space. Now, this was released in 1971. So, who's playing on this? Well, you've got that Dave Brock, the ever-present Dave Brock, and he's still rocking now, who does guitars, harmonica, and audio generator. The brilliant saxophone, flute, vocals, Nick Turner. On synthesizer, Del Detamar. Audio generator, Mick, Michael Davis. On the bass guitar, Dave Anderson. Terry Ollis on percussion. So, the first track on here is called You Shouldn't Do That. This is a 15-minute epic, a really freaky track. It really goes in different directions, doesn't it? All over the place. But it's very coherent. It's a brilliant track. How they put these bits together and make them go so smooth was unbelievable. A really good track to open the album. Then we have You Know You're Only Dreaming. I love this track. This is the track that you can compare to Pink Floyd and Source Full of Secrets. It's very psychedelic. It's just the noise, the atmosphere. It does really, especially when you hear it under the headphones, it really rattles around your head. So that's only 2 tracks on side 1. So we'll turn it over to side 2. And this opens up with another epic. Well, a mini epic, but I love it. It's called Master of the Universe The guitar work from Mr. Brock, brilliant. The effects he gets on those guitars, and I love how it keeps coming in and out through the track. That guitar, brilliant track. Then we took the wrong steps years ago. I love that title. This is a bit more of an acoustic sounding number. It's got some lovely little swirls on the keyboards, and it's very Beatlesque in places as well. It's a really good track. And then we have Adjust Me. This is the one track on the album that I'm not keen on. As I've said before, it sounds like he's got a blocked nose. Yes, clear your nose, son, and sing again. So I'm not very keen on this one. And the last track on here is called Children of the Sun. Another acoustic song, I think, is as a sit round the bonfire, roasting your marshmallows and having a bit of a sing-song. And I really like this. It's a very good track. Once again, this is a brilliant album. I love this album. And if people say, where's Silver Machine? Silver Machine was not on this originally here in the UK, so that's why it's not been mentioned. But I think this is probably one of the first real space rock albums, to be quite honest. I love this album. So what did the old critics think? Well, Melody Maker reviewed this album in the context of a contemporary things, and their instrumental playing did not reach the same heights as other bands, and which I find very strange because I think it's good. But in the US, Lester Bangs, I love that name, in Rolling Stone favorably appraised the album to the context of other musical works concerned with space, going on to describe the music as a monotone jammings with hypnotic rhythms and solos, unraveling riffs. Billboard described this as forcibly compelling, electronic and repetitive, and the band nearly brings fruition to its claim of being a truly mind-expanding rock group. Yeah, so there's not many sort of ratings here. AllMusic gave it a 3.5. The Encyclopedia gave it a 4. Heritage gave it a positive, and Mojo gave it a 4. How did it do in the charts? Well, it only got to number 18 here in the UK, and it made number 34 in Australia. And it got a gold certificate, and that was due to the 1981 release. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of In Search of Space. Song quality, fabulous stuff. They took it to the next level on this album. Absolutely freaky stuff, but wonderful stuff. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Production, excellent production. Again, way up ahead of its time. So yes, I'm going to give this a 5. It's out of 5. It is just wonderful production on this album for 1971. Reception, mixed bag again with the critics. Top 20 album, but when it was released again in 1981, it went gold. So it sort of grew, but I'm still going to give it a 4 out of 5 because it's an important album. Cover design, I love this cover. The black background, the stars, the colours. Hawkwind, In Search of Space. It says what it does on the tin. You can see what it is. It's an iconic cover in rock music. So I'm going to give that a 5 out of 5 because it is one of my favourite covers. Okay. So that gives In Search of Space a grand total of 18 out of 20. Now, point-wise, it's definitely a win for Hawkwind. And in the big scheme of things, I think it's right. As much as I loved Source Full of Secrets. I just think In Search of Space is just a truly amazing space rock album. They just sort of set the trend. And then UFO was doing the same sort of thing in them days. But this album just seemed to hit all the right notes, tick all the boxes, and today people still talk about this brilliant album. So I'm going to choose this over Source Full of Secrets, as much as there are some really good tracks on Source Full of Secrets. There are some tedious bits on there as well, but this is just in your face all the while. So today's winner is In Search of Space, Hawkwind. Okay, you know the drill. At 2 p.m. this afternoon, it'll appear on the community where you can vote. And then we'll have a poll in the live stream tonight. So there we go. Get voting on this one. Up next, and the third and final video of the day, we have got Pick and Mix. And this week we're going to look at a producer. And that producer in question is Mr. Eddie Kramer. So join me for that. Bye for now.